Daredevil Season 3 is probably the best season so far. It's definitely miles ahead of any other Netflix show that's come out recently. It's kind of difficult to rank all of the Daredevil seasons because they're all so good. Like, the first season blew everyone away. The second season was a bit worse, but it introduced a lot of elements that were going to be used in the rest of the, like, Marvel Cinematic TV Netflix universe. And this season it goes completely back to basics, and that's kind of what I like. It feels more like this would have worked more as season 2, but also having that gap where between where we were like allowed to kind of breathe, having the break with all this Wilson Fisk stuff. I think that was smart. I think it was a smart thing to have season 2 be almost unrelated to season 1 and have season 3 be more of a sequel to season 1 than a follow-up to season 2. There are a lot of name drops in here. There's a name drop to Jessica Jones. Frank Castle is not dropped by name or anything else in the series proper, but through flashbacks, yes. And the whole season is basically the return of Wilson Fisk and the rise of Wilson Fisk back to power. The first season was the fall of Fisk, the rise of Daredevil. The second season was more Daredevil trying to find out what kind of a hero he wanted to be. And this is kind of the moral questioning of Daredevil. Him basically saying, right, the guy I put away is out. The justice system has failed the city. I need to take him out permanently. And throughout this, a lot of new stuff is brought to the fray. Daredevil's more advanced suit is given to a new character who ends up being arguably more villainous than Fisk himself, in the form of Ben Poindexter, who is not actually named in this season, but most people know he's Bullseye anyway. Most people know he's Bullseye. Come on, he's a guy who throws stuff and never misses a very good aim. He's Bullseye. Also, at the end of the season, when you get the close-up into his eyes and he gets the Bullseye eye thing in his eyes, which I thought was a bit weird, but it was kind of cool as well. Yeah, it's Bullseye. And it was kind of odd to see him actually be named in this, because in the comics he was never actually given a name, but here he was. There's a lot more character development with Matt Murdock, which I like. I always like to see that. I always like to see the characters, the character development. And everyone gets their time to shine. Everyone who hasn't had a episode centered on them before gets an episode centered on them now. There is an episode centered on Ben Poindexter, Bullseye. There is an episode centered around Karen Page that is literally called Karen. There are several more flashbacks to Matt Murdock's childhood. We get to see more like voices in Matt Murdock's head. He gets the conflicting duality of both his father and Wilson Fisk. Wilson Fisk just commands the screen. Vincent D'Onofrio is an amazing actor. He just screams threatening. He just screams like he could actually own a city. He is that powerful, and he has that kind of demanding voice. Like, we barely ever hear him shout, but he has that kind of voice that is just threatening. We also see more vulnerability in Wilson Fisk. Every scene that he's in with Vanessa, I felt really compelled in his character and his development, because he is a sympathetic villain. He is a very good villain. He's probably the best in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know, hate me, all you Loki fans. Kingpin's better. A lot of the Netflix villains are better because they have a series to back themselves on, and they have flashbacks, and they have all this. But seriously, Wilson Fisk is he's just up there as one of the greatest villains on screen. We also get a lot more. We get a lot of Foggy Nelson in this. Foggy Nelson is always likable. He's probably the most likable character in the whole series. I always found it funny because at the start of the series, Matt Murdock's like, I need to be Daredevil full time. I need to listen to Stick. I need to take everyone away from me and just be Daredevil on my own. But he doesn't get the suit. He doesn't get the proper suit. He just uses like a nun's thing and just uses that as the suit, and, you know, covers himself head to toe in black. Which I really liked. It showed his humanity. The action sequences in this show blew me away. Every action scene is top notch. Every action sequence in this could have been the high point in any other action movie or TV series. It just could be. There are so many high points. Like whenever Daredevil goes up against Bullseye, the entirety of episode 4 is just a moment. That is the moment for the series. Episode 4, the entirety of that episode is just one big, long, knockdown, drag-out fight. Imagine that fight from the first season where he's in the hallway, but dragged out into like a full episode. That's episode 4 of this season for me. The final big fight I thought was a bit jumbly and messy, where they have Bullseye, Daredevil, and Wilson Fisk all fighting each other. I thought that was a bit of a mess. It would have been better if they were fighting as like a round thing. I don't know how I could do it better. It's just, it felt a bit off. I don't know what was wrong with it, but I just feel like it could have been handled a bit better, but I don't know how, if that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of this season does a lot of stuff right. It does almost everything right. The pacing, of course, it's going to be a little slow to start off with, but it doesn't have that problem that a lot of other Netflix shows have, where it feels like the last 3 episodes could have just been stretched out to like 6, and that could be the season, and then they stretch it out to 13 and they have a lot of filler in there. There is hardly any filler in this. There's hardly any fluff. It's all one solid story, and it feels like it deserved to be 13 episodes. And it is always entertaining, always annoying, always really, really fun to watch. There are very few lulls in this. Maybe in episode 10, where we get some of Karen's backstory, it kind of slips up, but only for like a few minutes, and then it goes back up. The first 2 episodes are kind of what I think are the slowest, but that's gonna happen. There's still a lot of entertaining action, and there's still a lot of good stuff in those 2 episodes. It's just they need to set up the season, and they do it well. I don't really have anything else to say. I've gushed about this season enough. I loved it. I definitely recommend it to anyone who is a fan of action series, action movies, action anything. If you're a fan of Daredevil, you've probably watched it already. If you're a fan of superheroes, you've probably watched it already. If you're a fan of the MCU, but you haven't seen the Netflix shows, what have you been doing with your life? Get onto Netflix, binge watch all the shows. They are all worth your time, even Iron Fist, because season 2 was leaps and bounds ahead of the first season. But still watch the first season as well, because it leads into Defenders, and Defenders was, in my opinion, really good. I liked it. This is probably the best. It's at the top for me, slowly followed by the other 2 seasons, and then Punisher, then Jessica Jones season 1. But that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below what your opinion is. Rank the Netflix shows for me in the comments below, and I'll see if I agree or disagree. And yeah, I'll see you next video. The usual links are in the description below. Like, share, subscribe, all that lovely stuff, and yeah, see you guys in the next video. Peace. Don't know what that was all about.